Tick, 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 tick.
What is going on, everybody? It's Wednesday night, and for the most part, a lot of the baseball games were played this afternoon. But don't worry, because we have a 4-game baseball slate for Josh Engleman and myself to break down right now. So as you guys come in, do us a favor, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and if you got any questions, comments for us, leave them in the Discord channel or throw them into YouTube. Pretty good chance that Josh and I will be able to get to those on this 4-game slate. So a little more liberty in terms of time and stuff that we have to talk about. We're sponsored by Owner's Box today, so we'll talk more about them in a little bit as we come here. But Josh, most importantly, haven't seen you for a few days. What's happening?
Not much. Just getting absolutely destroyed on this early slate. I did not have the Rangers or the Nats. Not nearly enough of the Nats, at least. So I got pretty well wrecked. Unfortunate, because pitching I got, but I certainly did not get the hitting. So we're on to this 4-gamer, which is wildly unappealing to me. But what are you going to do? It's fine. It's baseball. I was happy we got what we got today. I mean, 9 games, 50K on an early. Like, I didn't expect that prize pool or anything. I thought it was just going to be 2 crappy slates today, and we actually got a decent one. It just didn't work out my way.
Yeah, and the night slate, the contest, leave a little bit to be desired. We've got different games across FanDuel and DraftKings, which is also a massive pain in the ass whenever that happens. The FanDuel slate doesn't include the late game, but it does include the 6:40 game. The DraftKings slate starts at 7, so it doesn't include the Mets-Marlins game, but it does include the West Coast game. So certainly some different stuff to talk about here with people pointing out in the chat. Yes, I did get a haircut, primarily because somebody in YouTube chat said that I was not a heartthrob for some reason. So I was like, well, we gotta correct that shit. We're not gonna deal with that anymore. So this is an attempt to woo all the lovely men that watch us talk about fantasy sports in the YouTube chat. So who was it again? It was a Cheshire Cat, Jordan. Is that who it was? Yeah. What up now, Mr. Cat? What up now?
So you went from 1998 Justin Timberlake to 2002 Justin Timberlake. Congratulations there.
Listen, I only have different versions of Justin Timberlake that I could look like, but there could be worse things, right? There could be worse things to look at. Like,
yeah, you could look like Chris Kirkpatrick.
Yeah, or you could be like, Eric, who looks like, I don't know, Pee Wee Herman, Popeye Jones.
Who does Jordan look like?
I can think of a couple billion people, but like not one.
That went better than I thought.
Not like one particular that comes to mind. I mean, that's also a lie, depending what his most recent haircut looks like.
Fair.
But yeah, no, Jordan is Jordan's Jordan. I'll tell you, Jordan's strong.
Wait, what?
Among I would say, like, if we were trying to find out like who of the Asian Americans are the strongest, I think Jordan is like in the 99th percentile of strength.
Of all Asian Americans?
Yep, 99th percentile.
I'm trying to think of the one thing Jordan might be in the 99th percentile of Asians for.
I'm telling you, Jordan's strong as shit. I've seen the videos of him working out online. Him and I are friends on our Apple Watch, so I know how frequently he's getting it in at the gym. I'm telling you.
No. Nope. Not in for this one.
Well, he's got no other skill set that we could point to.
That's true. He is drinking out of a water bottle like he's a 38-year-old housewife, but it's fine.
Yeah. Well, he's wearing sleeves today, so that's an upgrade for him. That's not always the case.
You can tell there's only 4 games tonight.
Yeah, there's only 4 games, but I mean, it's a little more if we stretch it out and we're talking about the different pitching options across DraftKings and FanDuel. But let's go ahead and start talking about some of the pitchers that we like. And also just shout out to Owner's Box, who's sponsoring the show. If you guys haven't checked out Owner's Box, sign up using the link below in the description box, because that is going to get you 1 free week of our NFL package. Everything included in it: player projections, ownership projections, top stacks tool, boom bust tool, and then, of course, our contest generator, our Sims tool. That's all included in our football package. You get that 1 week for free when you sign up an Owner's Box using that link below. It only takes a $10 deposit, so really good value on that. So go check out Owner's Box if you guys have not already. And if you aren't, you're leaving money on the table, because there's also been a lot of overlay over there for the start of the football season. Pitchers today, though, Josh, I know you said that you had done well, at least as far as picking your pitchers for the early slate. And we've got some chalk, which is always going to happen on a 4-game baseball slate of pitcher, but we've got some really heavy chalk. There are 4 pitchers that are pay-up options that are expected to be popular today. Justin Steele at 9,900 is projected for 44% ownership. Kevin Gausman at 11,200 is projected for 44.2% ownership. And then Bobby Miller at 8,700 is projected for 48% ownership. Of these chalk pay-up options, do you have a preferred option, Josh?
I do. I have a preferred 2. So I have a clean line drawn in the sand of 2 guys way over their ownership, 2 guys way under their ownership. Did you watch the strategy show this morning?
No, I did not. Unfortunately, I was dealing with some other stuff.
Yeah, fair. Okay. You know the 4 guys that are getting ownership. Do you want to hazard a guess as to who my 2 stands are and who I'm fading?
All right. So I'll see how closely this resembles what I am looking at. If it is the same as me, the 2 stands you are making is you are on Justin Steele and Bobby Miller, and you are underweight to Kevin Gausman.
You are correct on Bobby Miller. I think he is very clearly the guy today. Best combination of upside and price. Matchup is perfect. To me, he is the easy guy.
Oh,
but it is not Justin Steele.
I may have misinterpreted your question a little bit, because I was only looking at the 3 popular options and what you're doing with them. I'm going to guess that you're overweight to the field on Mitch Keller, which also totally makes sense from the standpoint of you've got all these pay-up options, and he's the only one that isn't popular of the group. Mitch Keller's for 11% ownership.
I think we're still off on the question, because I was including Michael King and I was looking at the 4 heavily owned guys. You are correct, though, that I am over on the field of Mitch Keller. So you did get that correct. I am quite light to Justin Steele, 17% compared to the 44 we're projecting. And I have 1% of Michael King.
Okay. So, yeah, I was starting just by kind of focusing on the high-end guys, but I mean, you could make a couple of different cases here for different guys in different respects. To me, when it comes to Bobby Miller, he's the best overall pitching option on the slate. And, you know, ownership, sure, it's high, but you can't only play contrarian guys on this slate, because at some point you're going to have to eat some of the chalk. I agree with you. Bobby Miller's the pitcher that I ultimately end up getting to the most on this slate. For Gausman, it's really a price point issue for me. He's so much more expensive than everybody else. Projected for the 44.2% ownership in the same neighborhood as Justin Steele and Bobby Miller, but it's just too expensive for me to get to him as often as maybe I would like to. So I came in underweight to the field on Gausman from that. I'm a little bit closer to the field than on Justin Steele than it appears that you are. And then when it comes to Mitch Keller, I just find him to be the easiest guy to get overweight to on the high end from the standpoint of he's 11% owned.
Yeah, his 11% ownership is like the most wrong thing to me that exists. I think it should be double that. I have double that. So Mitch Keller is just the guy that I think stands out as like the most interesting pitcher to get to from a tournament standpoint, where you're trying to get a little bit different than the field. I wouldn't mind having Steele. I wouldn't even really mind having Michael King. I do think that those guys should be getting ownership, but right now I think that Kevin Gausman's ownership is around correct at 44%. I think that Bobby Miller's is correct at 48%, but I think Mitch Keller is short 10-ish% of ownership. And I'm basically taking that immediately from Steele. And then I'm getting a little bit more from Gausman and Miller because I'm bumping those guys up. It's really King that's getting the giant haircut for me. I have his true ownership somewhere in that like 20 to 25 range, coming in the low 30s. That's causing me to just not get to that tier, to simply just draw a line at Bobby Miller and then figure it out with the bats.
Yeah, and we'll talk about bats in a little bit, and a lot of this has to do with the ownership on Michael King. I think the Blue Jays make for a really, really good stack against him when you're getting, modest ownership, small slate, and you're attacking a pitcher that's super chalky that is cheap. So I understand why people are getting from a points per dollar standpoint, but at the same time too, I think he's a little bit overowned. So it can make a strong case for the Blue Jays as a stack. And shout out to Chris Williams in the YouTube chat, just gifted out 5 YouTube memberships. So Chris, thank you very much for the support. We always do appreciate it. And then Chris also says, work is killing me, literally. Is that because of the new iPhone release? Is that what's going on, Chris? Do you have any, I can't remember if we had talked about it at some point, Josh. Any interest in the new iPhone for you?
It will be here in like 2 or 3 weeks.
All right. Do you get the new ones like whenever they come out?
No. So I used to get a new one every year, but now it's such a marginal change that I actually have the 12 right now. So it's been 2.5 years. So I'm going to like, that's sort of my new threshold, but I wanted to make the switch to the USB-C as well. Like my phone works perfectly. I don't notice it. It's fast. I don't screw around. Like I keep a case and a screen protector on it at all times. So I wasn't even really thinking about doing it. I was probably going to wait it out another year. And then I went on to AT&T and they're like, you can upgrade. And I was just like, oh, I guess I should just do that if it's free.
Yeah, so for me, I had not gotten a new iPhone for a very, very long time. I was using like the 9 or something like that. And then DraftKings, because they had the way they did the Onyx packages last year, I just picked the Apple package, so I got all the new Apple shit. So
that was a great package. Like if I didn't have a shit ton of Apple stuff, it would have been interesting. But I already have it. But
yeah,
I would have been all for the people that didn't take that. If you don't already have it, like you were cleaning up in product.
Yeah, like the other option, some of it was like, hey, you get like I'm trying to remember what some of the other it was like get like a bottle of liquor. It's like, oh yeah, I'll take the Apple stuff.
Yeah.
And then I don't know what they're gonna do next year, but it seems like they're offering a lot of the same stuff. I'm not gonna take the Apple package again. So
that's good. I'm glad they're offering the same stuff because my wife has earmarked a truffle hunting trip in Europe. So
really?
Yeah, I'm certainly not getting the Apple products. She wants to go on the vacation.
Yeah, I think the vacations last year, it was a couple of Europe vacations. One, depending if you had enough of if you were, because I was on it, but I wasn't like the super high tier Onyx where like you get like Super Bowl tickets and stuff.
Oh yeah, no.
So that was one of the other options. There were definitely.
I think Adam took the Super Bowl tickets actually.
Yeah, he did. He'll be there with like Shrek and a couple other guys.
And probably like 4 assorted dancers from the Baltimore metro area.
Yeah, I mean his date. Either somebody he could pay or he'll just bring a doll with him. Whatever it is that's available to him at the time.
Yeah. We're going to Ireland in June for Taylor Swift. So I think we're going to try to combine whatever vacation could exist from DraftKings with that trip and do like a pretty extended thing next summer.
That's pretty cool. What how far in advance does Taylor Swift sell tickets that if you want to go see her, you have to get tickets a year in advance in another country?
Just like that. Yeah. I mean, we've known this for a couple months now, 2 months, 3 months at least. Whenever they went on sale, they immediately stop existing. So no matter where she is, she's going to just print sold tickets.
That's a good gig.
Yeah. So I don't know, sometime in June in Ireland.
Is there anybody who's even comparable to her selling tickets right now for anything?
No, she's revolutionized the entire touring industry. I mean, this is on another level. And are you I assume we see this happen now for other people that could like pseudo handle it. But I mean, she has like knocked it out of the park to the nth degree, has the catalog for it. Like every bit of it is she's just cornering the market on awesome. So good for her. I mean, she's printing money in a crazy way.
How much of this is your wife being a fan of her, or are you also a Taylor Swift fan?
I am absolutely a fan. I have no problem admitting that. I am not going to the concert. She will be going with one of her friends, and myself and her boyfriend will go do whatever it is that we're going to do in Ireland while they go to the show. We did this already this year. We went to Vegas in March. I got sick aggressively and I never left. I stopped leaving the hotel. So I already ruined this plan once. They went to go see Taylor Swift. I didn't get to hang out with Mike in this case. So we're going to try it again in Ireland in June.
Yeah, I remember when that happened. When you went to because not only do you get sick in Las Vegas, like the day I think it was the second day you were there, if I remember correctly, but then you were still sick when you got back also.
Oh yeah, I flew home with a 103 fever. I was sick for like a couple days. It was like the absolutely for me personally, the worst 48-hour stretch of my life. From being aggressively sick, fever 104, thinking, oh my God, I'm going to go to the Las Vegas emergency room tonight. This should be a real treat. The weekend of a Taylor Swift concert, no less. And then having to like go to the airport, take a red eye with a fever, connect in Charlotte, then get back. And then I had like not awesome home news when I got home. So I had to deal with that while still sick. It was just miserable.
Can you imagine the
James
things?
Perkins says you had COVID. I did not have COVID.
No, he just had a fever. He was sick. Can you
Yeah.
imagine though the things? Because I remember when you saying you were taking a COVID test and you didn't end up having COVID. I remember that being a thing. Can you
Yeah.
imagine though if you're an ER doctor in Las Vegas, the things you must see?
It's got to be. It's got to be insane. Like I assume it's comparable in New York, LA, whatever, because just like people are going to create ridiculous scenarios. But full well that most people that show up in the ER are probably banged up on something. Like their sobriety in the ER is probably very minimal.
That, and also it's like you got somebody who's limping when they come in. It's like, what's the issue? And it's like, hey, I've got a GI Joe stuck up my asshole. So like, it's only the most bizarre things that people are going to see as ER doctors in Las Vegas, and then you just there with your super high fever. Back to the baseball slate. We have a super chat from, where'd it go? Corey Williams, not Chris Williams. Corey Williams wants to know any merit to playing Torque and Miller in the same lineup on DK. So he's considering playing Bobby Miller and Spencer Torkelson in the same lineup. On a 4-game slate like this one, where we actually have viable pitching options, I don't think it's needed to play hitters against pitchers. If this was a 3-game slate where we're chopping 1 game off, then I think maybe you'd consider it. For a 4-gamer, I don't really think it's necessary. Are you building any lineups, Josh, with hitters versus pitchers?
No, I am not. And like even independent of like the hitter versus pitcher matchup, like let's scrap that for a second and just evaluate Torkelson on his own. I think Torkelson is the second worst person that has first base eligibility today. So right out of the gate, I don't even think he grades out all that well. You can play 12 separate people at first. I think he's only ahead of Andre Lepicius, who's hitting 9th, which you don't normally see as a first baseman. I don't even know if that's how you say that dude's name, but that's how it's coming out of my mouth. But then too, I like the more interesting piece, I guess, is like it's not as if a righty-righty matchup for Torkelson is like one I'm trying to attack. The park works, but I just don't find it to be necessary at all. You can find a better way to allocate $4,700 today and not have a first baseman against your own. Like find 200 and go to Vlad or Paul Goldschmidt or so. Like when you start naming some of these guys that are out there, it just becomes very obvious that that's not what you need to do.
Or leave $600 salary on somebody like Carlos Santana, who I get more exposure to anyway. So that's something else you could do.
I mean, literally every option except for that Andre character, to me, is way better.
Andre Lipschitz, I'm going to call him. That's probably not right either. I'm sure
you're right. I actually thought there was another vowel in there between the P and the C. So you are right with Lipschitz.
Yeah, we'll see. It's something that's going to require a good amount of research on my end that I don't know I'm going to do to figure out how to pronounce Andre Lipschitz. But for now, that's what his name is going to be, at least on this YouTube channel. Other pitchers that we have to talk about on DraftKings, and then we'll go and we'll look at an overview of the pitchers as far as FanDuel is concerned. But the DraftKings pitchers, Josh, we've talked mostly about the chalk options, which are the high-end guys and Gausman, Steele, Mitch Keller, but then also you brought in, you're taking a stand here on Michael King and getting underweight to the field on him. What is it about Michael King that you don't like for the slate?
I don't totally know. As weird as that sounds, I think it's just the ownership relative to the Blue Jays' chances of success. I think that the Blue Jays just happen to look a little bit better than the ownership, at least for me, than the ownership that they are getting in relationship to King also getting that ownership. That's the only way that I could see it. Because obviously 5,900 is a really nice price tag. He's established some of this strikeout stuff as a starter this year. It had looked a little bit better. He'd been bumping up big time in strikeout rate as the reliever, but not really seeing it as a starter. It's actually here this year as a starter. So I'm a little concerned with just simply where I have him as a pitcher in general via Steamer, because they chalk him up for a lot of walks, a relatively pedestrian strikeout rate. But at 5,900, does any of that stuff even matter? I'm not sure. I was trying to look at some of the strikeout lines now, but because Vlad got scratched, Michael King's strikeout prop is gone. I don't know if you had seen it or anything like that. So if you had, great. I guess I could probably go to Odd Shopper and still find it. There's no way that that's updated yet.
Let's see. Michael King. It's probably going to be down. Let's see. There might be one book that still has Michael King up somewhere.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I figured someone didn't get to it yet, or like
There we
doesn't
go.
care to get to it because it's not.
Yeah. So the only book that has it. Oh, we could look at some of what the other books had posted before, but Tipico has it at 5.5 plus
Okay.
money on the over for Michael King. Does this change your outlook on him now that the fact that that Vlad isn't going to be in the lineup, because this kind of came out of nowhere?
I mean, it's going to make it a better strikeout matchup because Vlad's like the second least likely to strike out of anybody on the Blue Jays. All right, so if we're going to set it somewhere in like the probably around 5, it's like juice to the under, juice to the over 4.5. Call it around 5. I had it at 4.5, so I don't like. I think I'm about right on Michael King for today. His outs line was right around like 15. That's where I have him today. So I just think the blue and like this will bring the Blue Jays top stack odds down for sure. I think when I just look at it, it was a very easy spot to get on the opposite of a third of the field owned pitcher for a team with a lot of raw power. I think it was just as simple as the Blue Jays looking better. That probably changes though now.
I had two teams I was considering for my single entry stack. I had one Blue Jays lineup, which had Vlad in it. And then I also had a Dodgers lineup. And I was kind of going back and forth which one I wanted to play in single entry. I was on the Blue Jays. Now I think I'm going to switch it to the Dodgers stack because Vlad is out of that lineup. Something else to consider as well for today, which we'll talk a little bit more when we come to stacks. This game starts 3 hours later than any other game on the slate. We don't have the Dodgers lineup yet. I suspect that's going to drive down the Dodgers ownership a little bit because we're not going to have that lineup prior to lock. And I do think a lot of hand builders are just going to look at them and be like, yeah, just not going to mess around with that game.
Yeah. I mean, this is a second straight week where obviously DraftKings should have followed in FanDuel's suit and added the 640 games, made this a 5-gamer that plays all in an hour, and then do a Dodgers Tigers showdown slate. Like to me, that just it's so obvious, and they were just like, nah, we're good.
And we would have been done with work 15 minutes earlier as well.
I wish they would have cut the early slate, cut the 3 o'clock and 4 o'clock games, and just make it a 6-game early.
Yeah, the early slate was a massive pain in the ass when it's like, hey, this locks at 12, and then there's games at 12:20 Eastern time. And then there are games 4 hours from now they're going to be on the slate that you're not going to have lineups to until well after lock. So yeah, I'm not really thrilled with how they ended up breaking up the slate today. It did make it a little bit annoying.
No.
But this is what we have to work with.
Yeah. I think it's funny that we're like basically not going to talk about Reese Olson, Adrian Hauser, and Zach Thompson. They're just like, they're on the slate.
Pitchers I don't have interested in. I
don't have a single share of all three.
Of the pitchers that don't have much ownership, Mitch Keller, the only one they're really prioritizing? Or is there any other contrarian pitching option that stands out to you at all?
No, not really. Like, I think that Reese Olson and Adrian Hauser are under-owned at 3.5%. I just don't know how much utility there is for them. But like both of those guys should be on a day like today, honestly, like probably around 10. If we're being realistic here, 5 to 10 somewhere. They're all real. Like these aren't guys that are going to go out there and throw 2 innings or anything like that. Well, I mean, they can if they get blasted, but they're not planning to throw 2 innings. If you're a real pitcher on a 4-game slate, you are more viable than 3.5% owned. Unless you're like playing the Braves on the moon or something, like that might be bad. But in this case, I do think Reese Olson and Adrian Hauser should have more ownership if Zach Thompson's going to be 12 and Michael King's going to be 30. Like, I don't think that disparity is even close. But at the same time, they don't look good either.
Probably the biggest issue I have with Reese Olson is, well, number one, I really like the Dodgers as a stack today. But the other part of it too is like, if you're going cheap and you're playing Reese Olson at pitcher, it's probably to pay up for bats. And what is the most expensive offense? The Los Angeles Dodgers. And now you've got like the Blue Jays. They were a viable pay up spot, but now what? There's no Vlad in the lineup. So that also kind of makes an impediment to getting to the Blue Jays to some extent. So just from like a lineup construction standpoint, it's kind of hard for me to get to Reese Olson for those reasons. But anything else you want to talk about as far as the DraftKings pitchers go, Josh? If not, we'll do an overview of the FanDuel options and a couple of guys that are a little different over there.
I don't think so. Just to reiterate, I had 85% Bobby Miller and 74% Kevin Gausman. So if anybody was curious, like what those big stands were, those were the two guys that I was getting in a big way. But I had two lineups with Michael King. Everything else was Miller, Keller, Steele, or Gossman.
All right, so let's go ahead and look at the early game on FanDuel. So we've got games like the Mets Marlins game, which is not on the DraftKings slate, but it is over on the FanDuel slate. So some good pitching there because we do have a pitching matchup between Yuri Perez and Kodai Senga. So they're two of the more expensive pitchers over on FanDuel. Between the two of them, it's really hard for me to not like Senga. He's not super popular or anything like that. He's 10,600, so he's in the same price range as guys like Kevin Gausman and Justin Steele. Senga's been really good this year, especially down the stretch of the season where he's not having the same walk issues that he had early in the year. So of everything that's added to the FanDuel slate that isn't on DraftKings, it's Senga that makes the most sense to me. You're also getting a good ownership discount on him because Gausman's projected for 28% ownership. Steele's projected for 22% ownership. Senga's on the road in Miami, a pitcher-friendly park, only projected for 16% ownership. I like him as a pay-up option, especially at the price decrease relative to the other two guys. Is a couple $100 cheaper, and also the ownership discount. Is Senga somebody who stands out to you in any kind of way looking at our top pitchers tool, Josh?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to see that he's just significantly, maybe not significantly, but like he's certainly on a different ownership tier than Gausman and Steele, but I'm not entirely sure that he should be. Like the top pitcher odds look a little bit better. I think that he's probably if you're looking at those first three guys, he's probably the more interesting tournament guy just because of the ownership.
Yeah, that's where I'm at, especially on, smaller 5-game slate over on FanDuel. Not a massive amount of options. I like paying up for Senga for sure. As for Yuri Perez, I mean, you can make a case for him. The problem I do have with Perez, though, and we've seen this with the way that he's been managed by the Marlins all year, it's how apt are they going to be to let him really get stretched out and go deep into the game? Let me go and look at some of Yuri Perez's outings as super talented young pitcher, but it's just really hard to expect him to go all that deep into a lot of these games. And you look at his recent outings, 4 2/3 innings, 5 innings, 4 2/3 innings. He's actually not gone past 6 innings the entire year. So this is a slate where even though there aren't an abundance of options, and we'll talk also, we've got the Tampa Bay Los Angeles game also that's included on the FanDuel slate, but still it's really hard for me to compare the upside to Perez to guys like Senga, Steele, and Gausman when I just can't expect him to work all that deep into the game.
Yeah, he's interesting, but what's the best case scenario? 90 pitches if you cross your fingers, more likely 85. I think he's just a little limited, but the price doesn't back that up. I think it would be way easier to go to Michael King over Yuri Perez. I don't think those guys are going to be all that different. You're going to save salary. There's nothing going to be slowing down King in this sense, and King is just not getting owned.
And then if we look really on the low end here, Reed Detmers is somebody who, if you want to take a crazy tournament flyer on FanDuel, I don't mind Reed Detmers at 1% ownership.
No.
If you really want to differentiate a lineup, Reed Detmers is somebody who we're, a month and a half, 2 months removed from him being a pitcher who was really popular on a lot of slates. This is the most reasonable way to be contrarian on FanDuel, in my opinion. Go play Reed Detmers in a line. You play whoever you want at offense after that for a couple of reasons. Number one, he's $7,200. You got all the salary savings to work with. And he's only 1% owned. So you can play as chalky as offenses as you want over on FanDuel. And as long as you read Detmers, you have a reasonably contrarian lineup. So I like him at the cheap end for contrarian purposes. He's also the third cheapest pitcher on the entire slate. The only guys less expensive than him are Adrian Hauser and Zach Thompson. Reed Detmers is more talented than both of them combined.
Cam Akers to the Vikings.
Oh. Let's see.
Just in case that matters too.
Yeah, I mean, for some best ball exposure I have to Madison, I guess it matters to some extent, but other than that, not too much. I've run extremely well with best ball because my late round flyers, I have Kyron Williams lineups, I've got Ford lineups, so I've been running well. I've avoided catastrophic injuries through 2 games, which a lot of people haven't in my portfolio of lineups to this point.
Dodgers lineup just dropped, by the way. So,
ooh, all right, let's see what we have there. Anything weird?
Betts, Freeman, Muncy, no Will Smith.
Yeah, no Will Smith.
You're getting Barnes catching today. JD, Peralta, the sea of outfielders, and then Rojas. So yeah, basically just Will Smith and Austin Barnes making the switch, which certainly makes the Dodgers worse. No doubt about that.
Outman's in the lineup. Just making sure there's nobody else that I had expected to play that isn't in the lineup.
No,
Nope.
it's just the Smith switch, it appears.
All right.
So
Not
at
all
least we
that hard
got
to adjust
we
for.
got the one that matters a half hour early. That's for sure. Like I don't think that anybody really gives a shit whether the Tigers lineup gets out.
No, that is true. Do you think this is going to have any kind of impact on the Dodgers ownership? Because I was really set on the idea that the Dodgers were going to be going a little bit lesser on than projected just because the lineup hadn't come out. And it's a team that I do like prioritizing for today. Does this change anything
No,
about how you view them?
no. Like I bet Will Smith is slightly more owned than zero, but that'll be basically the extent of it all. Just because you're really just not going to see a lot of Peralta, Hayward, Rojas ownership. And I think everybody's pretty fine with like clicking Betts, Freeman, Muncy, and in this case, Smith. And like swapping off of one of those guys is really easy to do. Whereas if you're trying to get like James Outman out of your lineup, it might be a little bit more tricky, especially that part. And like if you roster Mookie Betts, no matter what, you can swap him to something from the rest of the game or the Tigers, no matter what. Like you're just going to find an outfielder or a second baseman. It might be a little bit worse for a cheaper outfielder, but I don't think it's really going to matter too much.
So you and I, when we've done these shows, Josh, we could not have run worse when it comes to weather. And we do have a game with some weather in the forecast. It is the Cardinals Brewers game, which I think is more likely to play than not. It's not something that I'm putting too much weight in. Like it's not like a horrendous weather situation. Maybe it comes with some risk, but I'm good with rolling it out. Is it anything you are concerned with in that game?
A little bit, but you know, what the hell do we know?
Yeah, I mean,
we ruined this last Wednesday, I think.
It was last Wednesday and also the day after before that.
It's all bad. I'm not making any changes to it.
Neither am I.
I don't love it, but it's one of those games where I don't mind getting the hitting in this kind of a game, and I'm not getting to either pitcher. So I care a lot less about weather because I don't care if there's a delay.
Yeah, it's a good way to look at it as well because, if there's a delay that happens mid-game, what does it matter? The hitters are going to come right back out after a delay. Pitchers, probably not as much, especially at this point in the season. Then also you consider that it's two young pitchers on mound, two well-regarded young pitching prospects as well that teams are going to be cautious with. So Bobby Miller, Reese Olson, these are the type of pitchers who are very, very unlikely to re-enter a game after a lengthy rain delay. I still think the most likely scenario is the game plays without any issues, but in the event that there is an in-game delay, more of an impact on the pitchers than the hitters. Anything else in general you want to talk about with any of the pitchers on this slate, Josh?
I don't think so. I think we went through pretty much everything. I don't think there's a lot of digging that you need to do on like a Kevin Gausman or Justin Steele. I think it's pretty obvious why those guys are getting owned.
All right, then Jordan, let's pull up the lineup generator and let's start with FanDuel because that slate locks in 10 minutes. So we'll start with FanDuel. We'll build some contrarian lineups there. Then we'll look at DraftKings. We'll build some contrarian lineups there. And also, if you guys did not see, we're running a deal right now for our NFL lineup generator. We've got the two things. Sometimes I get them mixed up in my head because we got the contest generator now. We got the lineup generator, but the NFL lineup generator. You guys could sign up right now using the link below, promo code RedZone. If you click on the link, it's already going to be loaded in there. Less than $10 for your first week there. And we've got all kinds of cool features in the lineup generator for football. So things that are a little bit different for football compared to baseball. We have showdown slates in it for football. And you could do some really cool customization of your lineups built on game scripts. So let's say that there's a showdown game and you're convinced that one team is going to blow out the other team. You could put that in as a game script and the lineup generator is going to give you lineups for showdown contests built around that. So we'll build a bunch of lineups on football shows tomorrow, showing you guys how some of those tools work. And if you want access to the lineup generator for football, sign up using that link below, less than $10 to get access to it. Oh, and there we go. We got Jordan with it on screen there. So what I think is probably going to be a popular feature for a lot of people is selecting the 49ers to blow out the Giants. And there you can do the up arrow on the 49ers, the down arrow on the Giants. You build those lineups out and it'll give you that kind of game script built around that. So if you guys want to check out the lineup generator to help you build some football lineups tomorrow, go ahead and do that. But now baseball, and Jordan, start with FanDuel this time and we'll go contrarian just because the FanDuel slate's going to be locking a little bit early. So go contrarian and we'll see what ends up showing up in our FanDuel lineups. And then we got Corey Williams has asked who's the best Yankee to plug for a showdown lineup run back. What do you mean
Aaron
a
Judge?
showdown lineup run back?
I don't know the prices or anything, so I don't, or the owner, like I don't know if there's ownership. Probably Aaron Judge.
I'll build some. Here's what I'm going to do, Corey. I'm going to build some showdown lineups for that Yankees game, and then I'll let you know what I end up coming away with.
Assuming his price is minimal, Estevan Florial, probably the guy. You get that lefty righty power against Gossman. If you want it to be Austin Wells, by all means. But I don't know. When I watched him swing, it looked like he had too long of a swing, and I didn't feel like he was ever going to catch up with anything. So, he might be in the 9-hole, but Florial at least will have some pop.
All right. So I did run some lineups. Showdown lineups run so quickly because it's like 20 players in the entire pool. So if I'm looking at what I ended up getting to, actually I have to change some of the settings. Let's see. So what did I end up getting to here? As far as hitters. And also, Corey, what do you mean by a run back? Because I'm a little confused. He says price doesn't matter. So if price doesn't matter at all, then the answer is Aaron Judge as just the best Yankees bat to get to. If price does matter, but I know you said you didn't, the hitter I got to the most from the Yankees, all things being considered, was Estevan Florial. And that has to do with the fact that he is $3,800 in Showdown. They lowered the min price this year for MLB Showdown contest. So Florial is the one that stands out the most from a just overall point standpoint. But if you're not worried about that at all, Aaron Judge is your guy pretty clearly.
Yep. Looks like he's trying to do a 5-1 Blue Jays build with one Yankee. So before the Guerrero news, like you would have been more likely to get to Vlad in that kind of scenario than beforehand. But now with his like salary tier out of that lineup, you're probably freeing up even more potential salary to make it be Judge. Although honestly, like so many people are going to choose Judge that it might actually be Torres.
Yeah, it is. So also, if with the idea that salary doesn't matter, I know projections don't matter all that much for baseball relative to other sports anyway. But Judge is in just such a tier of his own where he's 10,400 for a showdown on this slate. The next most expensive Yankees hitter, to your point, Josh, it's Gleyber Torres at 8,000. So there's a $2,400 price difference between the most expensive and the second most expensive Yankee. So Aaron Judge is going to be my choice there. We don't have ownership projections for Showdown, which does make it a little bit difficult to know what that angle is. But yeah, I do expect that Torres will be quite a bit less popular than Judge.
Yeah, agreed.
If we go and look at the lineups we've built here for FanDuel, pitchers, we're getting to a bunch of Kevin Gausman over on FanDuel, followed by Justin Steele. That's making up most of our pitcher ownership. Getting to a lot of the Rays over on FanDuel. Click on those stack exposures, though, Jordan. Yeah, lots of the Rays. How popular are the Rays over on FanDuel? Oh, boy.
That's a question I don't know the answer to.
Rays are super popular on FanDuel. Project for 21% ownership as a team. That's a lot of ownership going to Tampa Bay. There's only 3 teams project for double-digit ownership on FanDuel. 21% aggregate ownership to the Rays. By the way, more reason I think, at least if you're going to be contrarian in large field tournaments, that Reed Detmer stands out a little bit. Brewers at 17% against Zach Thompson. And then the Cubs, kind of surprising, Cubs against Mitch Keller, 15% owned over on FanDuel. Ton of ownership going to the Cubs against Mitch Keller over on FanDuel. So
yeah, I would like some of the opposite side of that one if that's actually happening.
Yeah, that's what appears to be the case. Mitch Keller only project for 3% ownership on FanDuel. Cubs project for 15%. Of the teams we're getting the most exposure to here, I do like the Cardinals the most. They only project for 8.7% ownership on FanDuel. We have them with a 10.8% chance to be the top scoring team. So I think that they make sense as a little bit of an under-owned team. The Brewers, I get why people are getting there, but it's just, they're 17% owned. That seems more or less appropriate to me over on FanDuel.
Yeah, I think I think that game is just really hard to get away from just because of the pitching.
Check out the player exposures tab there, Jordan. So we'll look at who we're getting to the most from these teams. We saw the pitcher exposures, individual hitters, Isaac Paredes, Harold Ramirez, Yandy Diaz, and Randy Arozarena as our most rostered players from the Rays. Let's see. Keep going down. I want to see who we got to Oh, I see. Oh, actually, I saw Paul Goldschmidt, Wilson Contreras, Jordan Walker. So if you guys are making a Cardinal stack, those are some of the players we're getting the most of over on FanDuel. So let's do the same deal for DraftKings now, Jordan, and we'll see what we're getting to over on DK. And do same thing, contrarian lineups. See if we get to anything that's a little bit more contrarian.
That's contrarian.
Oh, you know what? I forgot. The main slate for DraftKings was the early slate.
Yes.
Forgot about that. So it's just weird how they labeled them. So we have one slate a day in the lineup generator for DraftKings. The early slate was the main. For FanDuel, the later slate was main. So just covering FanDuel in the lineup generator today. Super chat from Jorge Giacomi said he took second in the main slate mini max thanks to Josh's morning show and information. Thank you. And also thanks to the Sims tool, best tools in the industry. Chat. Join now and start winning. Jorge, thank you for paying us to do an ad read kind of there. We appreciate you. Always good to see you winning, Jorge. And yeah, if anybody wants to sign up for our NFL package, you can sign up using Owner's Box. That gets you access to the contest generator and the Sims tool. But if you want to sign up for our baseball package, we've got a link for that below as well. If you want access to our MLB Sims tool, link below in the description box. Let me pull up Discord to make sure there aren't any questions that we missed out on from there.
Jorge, I don't know what you were listening to get second, but kudos, because I didn't have that shit this morning.
Yeah, what was
not even close. I had it last night. I got 9th last night.
9th in the what was it, the 15
in the relay
last night?
Yeah, which is nothing, obviously, but
yeah, it's so tilting. There's been so many slates this year where I've had really good lineups where it's like, hey, look, 5% of my lineups are in the top 1% of the $15 on DK. And then it'll be like, but I lose money on the slate because the best lineup finished like 11th, which is terrible with the payout structure in that contest.
Having finished second and third 2 separate times this year has been real frustrating.
And twice knocked out of first by Shohei Ohtani.
Yes, that happened in like a week. In the bottom of the 9th.
This is karma. That's why he tore his eight. That's why
one of them was for 100 too, which is extra special frustrating.
I remember. Yeah, but you've had a good baseball season, so I don't think you can't have too much to complain about on the whole.
I am not mad. I do wish it was sticking around, but I'm also very, very, very excited for basketball.
Same. Captain Akella wants to know, sorry, I'm late. Wants to know, how are we doing single entry today? I was going to play the Blue Jays, and now I'm going towards the Dodgers because there is no Vlad in the lineup for Toronto. Vlad scratched, if you guys didn't see, got scratched, what was it, like 20, 25 minutes ago at this point. But yeah, no Vlad in the lineup today. That ended up having me pivot from my Blue Jays lineup to the Dodgers. Dodgers are a team that I like quite a bit today in single entry. We have them with the best overall top stack odds on the slate. And as far as ownership, like there's a lot of teams that are fairly popular on DraftKings, but nothing like absurdly so. But I'm going to lean towards the Dodgers being my favorite overall stack on the slate. Our top stacks tool aligns with that, and the ownership pretty modest on them. 15% ownership. You got the Brewers at 20%, the Cubs 13.5%, the Blue Jays at 11%, Cardinals 16.5%. I don't have a massive amount of interest in the Yankees, the Tigers, or the Pirates. So amongst those other teams that are similar in ownership, I like the Dodgers the most. What is the team you're getting the most stack exposure to, Josh?
It was the Brewers, but I don't really look at that the same. I think that's just filler that's matching the field. I think the answer is the Blue Jays in relationship to where the field is. It's either the Blue Jays or the Dodgers. Nah, it's probably the Blue Jays. I had 32 Blue Jays stacks.
Yeah, I guess it was going to be the Blue Jays for me until Vlad got scratched, and then it just made them look a little bit shittier. But still, definitely a second favorite stack for me behind the Dodgers. We got a super chat from Malukar, wants to know, what do you guys think of the Lions now? Injuries, question mark. I am not super opinionated on the Lions. I'm happy because I know that Malukar is a Pistons and the Lions fan. So I'm happy that at least one of those teams is serviceable for you to root for, because the Pistons sure shit aren't going to be this year. You know, maybe you could get a Cade Cunningham breakout, so you have something to root for, because I think it's within the realm of possibilities. But I think he's going to be more of a fantasy asset than a real life asset, because Cade has generally looked very underwhelming, especially from an efficiency standpoint. And now he's lost an entire year of development because of that shin. Was it a stress fracture in his shin? needed
Yeah.
surgery last year. So I know Malakar, you asked me about the Lions, but like I'm not super opinionated on their future outlook. From what I've seen of them on Red Zone and from watching their game on Thursday Night Football opening night, they seem more fun to watch than in previous years. And that's a carryover from the end of last season. So you have that going for you. And there's some individual players, Jahmyr Gibbs, Amon-Ra St. Brown, that I think are pretty fun to watch. How much prep have you done for NBA so far, Josh?
Not as much as I would like to. I'm starting to look through the path of like changing the base of my projections and moving that to a different system to get it all set up. So it's coming. I started thinking about it over this past couple of days. Normally I can get it done pretty quickly, but I think I have to remap people's positions, and that's going to take me a day or two. But I don't need too much because I've done so much over the past 10 years that like most of what I need to do is just ingrained in my brain. And I'm constantly listening to like the Dunked On previews and stuff. So like in my mind, I have it all in my head, but I have to start prepping for DFS sooner rather than later.
There's a team I'm very high on for basketball relative to sports books. This isn't like a team on like championship aspirations or anything like that. There's a team that I think is being woefully underrated by the books. Care to guess which team you think that might be?
I mean, I got a couple options in my head, and assuming based on the way you said it, Charlotte?
It is. You hit the nail on the head. It's Charlotte. Yeah. I don't know
how
this is possible.
I'm a big fan as well.
They have a lower win total going into this year than they did last year. And this is, by the way, last year after the LaMelo injury. They have a lower outlook going into this year with LaMelo healthy and Miles Bridges back than they had last year with no Miles Bridges and LaMelo being hurt. It makes zero sense to me.
I think they're going to be decent.
I have to look up. Yeah, I agree. I have to look up what number I bet, but it's like the one NBA future I bet so far. It was like over 31.5 wins or something like egregiously low for Charlotte as the opener.
I like that quite a bit. Their starting five is going to be really good. So is like, as long as they're healthy, they're more talented than most. I think people really forget how good they were 2 years ago when Miles Bridges like had his breakout. Like LaMelo's legitimately good. I think Bridges is good. We just don't know what we're getting out of him now. I think they have a better center rotation than they did before, although that's going to be a lot of like growing pains. Rozier works. Hayward is good enough when he's out there. You know, PJ Washington's on a good deal now. They're not going to be exciting or anything like that, but I think when they're full, like as long as they can be fully healthy, I think they're really sneaky at the bottom.
Yeah, I'm looking through my Pickett futures right now, and so I could find what the number is they ended up betting. I think it probably wasn't 31.5. I think it might have been a couple of wins higher than that. But I remember just looking at the opening numbers being like, there's just no way that's the correct. Oh, it's even lower. All right. 30.5 is the number that I bet on the Hornets.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
That's very, very low.
By the way, kudos to me for getting it out of the gate.
Yeah, you did. You hit it. I thought for sure. I mean, maybe I tipped my hand a little bit by saying that it wasn't going to be a team that had like title aspirations, but still, it's good to see that we're on the same page there.
The only thing that did was just let me like, at that point, I didn't know we were even talking win totals. So like, if you were just like, oh no, I think the line on the Warriors to win the title is like too low. I just wouldn't have been thinking about it like that. Once you said it, it just allowed me to think of who are the teams that I think are underrated heading into this year. And I think we're on the same page there.
And I think it's also important, by the way, we're going to be, one thing I'm really excited about for basketball as well is just basketball betting. I've had a bunch of success betting baseball as of late using the tools at OddsShopper. If you guys haven't checked out OddsShopper yet, we have a link for that below in the description box. Well, 70% when you sign up for the first time. And I can tell you just based on my bet history for the summer and for basketball and all that, it pays for itself if you guys sign up for OddsShopper if you're looking for sports betting for the basketball season and football as well, because we now have a ton of football options in there. But you have to think about, too, a team like the Hornets and why is it they underachieved last year? And it's like injuries. It's not a situation, and also like the Miles Bridges situation with him being suspended, but it's not like LaMelo had like some massive setback in terms of development or anything like that. And I just don't understand how this team only has a 30.5 win total there. So
no
Charlotte,
idea.
Team that I like betting on if you guys are looking for a team to bet some futures on for NBA. Back to the stacks for baseball, Josh. Sure. I know you said that you are pretty high on the Blue Jays as being your number one overall stack. For me, it is the Los Angeles Dodgers. It's who I'm now playing in single entry. What are you doing with the Dodgers in large field tournaments?
I have a ton. They're just a little bit behind the Blue Jays. They stand out a lot. There's just not as much utility to the Dodgers because they don't have a 40% owned pitcher on the opposite side. They have Reese Olson. But I think the Dodgers stand out. I have 18 stacks. I have about 15%, which is close to neutral. Like where they're projecting around 15% ownership as well. So it's not like it's some sort of big stand, but I'm happy to get to the Dodgers for sure. You just don't get that same sort of benefit. And I think that's why I'm getting to someone like the Blue Jays a little bit more frequently. Similarly, that's why I think I'm getting to the Pirates a little bit more frequently. I think it's really easy to take stands on two of the pitchers that are getting a lot of love. Like, I don't want to take that stand on Bobby Miller with the Tigers, and I don't really want to take that stand with the Yankees against Kevin Gausman. So the next two guys up are Steele and Olson, and I'm just everywhere on the opposite side. But Steele in particular, getting to the Pirates is happening, even though they look awful. Getting to the Blue Jays is happening. I think they look a little bit better against King.
Yeah, and I mean, the other thing too is if you look at all of the chalky pitchers today, by a mile, not even close, Michael King is the worst. And a lot of times that is my favorite way to attack some of these small slates is just who is the worst chalk pitcher that I can look at and get exposure to. And the answer for today, at least, is pretty clearly Michael King. Yep. So I do have some exposure to King because of the fact that I like the Dodgers and you do need cheap pitching somewhere to be able to pay up for him. But I do think Michael King is a little bit overowned on the whole. And I think it makes a lot of sense to get some leverage stacking against him as well. Are there any teams you view as being overowned as a stack that you like being underweight to the field to?
Cubs, I guess. They're pulling in quite a bit more ownership than I've got. I'm more of a believer in Keller for sure. And I think Keller is good. I'm a little surprised at the ownership that is coming into the top of the order for Chicago.
I'm going to say St. Louis, who are very cheap. Right. So you do have people who they like, for instance, they have the best top value odds in our top stacks. So we have them by far the team with the best chance of being the top points per dollar stack. 27.2% is their odds of being the top value stack on the slate. But at some point also we have to weigh like how much does raw fantasy points matter? And they're going up against Adrian Hauser, who's not good, but he's not terrible either. They're projected for 16.5% ownership. So the second most popular stack on all of DraftKings, with only a 10.7% chance of being the top scoring team. So of every single team on the slate that's picking up double-digit ownership, we've got the Cardinals coming in with the lowest top stack odds. And it's just a team it's hard for me to reasonably want to get to as much exposure as far as five-man stacks are concerned as the field is. I think a lot of these Cardinals players make sense as one-offs to save salary with, but as five-man stacks, I don't like them quite as much. How much of them are you getting to as five-mans?
Dead neutral for both of these teams, Cardinals and Brewers. I was just kind of soaking up this game. They were ending up in a bunch of stacks for sure, but as filler for the rest of I had no problem getting to the Cardinals or the Blue Jays if I was stacking the Cardinals and Brewers, if I was already getting to a primary of the Blue Jays, a primary of the Pirates, where I'm already on that lower owned team. So I was eating the chalk of both of these guys pretty regularly as my filler. So I don't mind them all that much.
And then are there any teams that are super? I mean, we've kind of gone through some of them. Like you said, that you like Pittsburgh against Justin Steele. There's only 3 teams that are projected for single digit ownership. 8% ownership going to the Pirates, 8% ownership going to the Tigers, 7.5% going to the Yankees. Of those teams, I don't really love any of them, but I guess Pittsburgh maybe makes the most sense of all of them, but it's kind of thin choosings.
Yeah, I like it. I have Pittsburgh, but not because I like Pittsburgh or anything like that. It's a very, very difficult matchup against Justin Steele. They just happen to be on the opposite side of 44% ownership. So that just immediately becomes appealing as it can be at the very least. So King is the guy. I get to the Jays first because King is the worst, the way that you described it before. And then I think that I just get to Steele because I think he is, to me, the worst of the 3 between Miller, Gausman, and himself.
Yeah, no, totally agree with that. I mean, it's pretty, not debatable that of the pitchers who are popular today, King is the worst. So you get leverage stacking up against him. And once again, to address in the YouTube chat, we got Perry Fernandez Jr. is asking, is the Brewers game a potential rain out? Yeah, but it's low likely. It's one that I'm not too concerned about with the weather. Now, Josh and I have run absolutely terribly shitty trying to predict the weather since him and I have been doing some of the live before lock shows together. But yeah, I'm rolling out that game as if it is going to be happening. And then just because I kind of found this question to be a funny one from Nate in the YouTube chat, wants to know best Contreras to play. Josh, between the Contreras brothers, which one do you have more exposure to?
Let me look. Funny question. Who's your Contreras?
Choose your Contreras. I can tell you,
I
bet William Contreras at plus 630 to homer tonight. So from that standpoint, I'm going to be on the side of William Contreras. So I would like him to homer at the plus 630 odds I have. As far as the two of them individually as options, I do prefer William Contreras to Wilson Contreras.
I also prefer William to Wilson. I have more William than Wilson. They're probably both a hair over owned, but if you want to go to a Contreras today, you're going to feel pretty good with it.
Yeah, we've got catcher ownership. They are the two most popular catchers on the slate. And that number's only gone up because there is no Will Smith in the lineup, no Jake Rogers. So if you look at the catchers that were expected to be the four most popular, it was Contreras, Smith, Jake Rogers. Jake Rogers, let me just double check that. Pretty sure he was not in the Tigers lineup. And we know Will Smith was not in the... Yeah, that is correct. So no Jake Rogers for the Tigers, no Will Smith for the Dodgers. That in mind, both the Contreras are going to be super popular. They're going to be two of the more popular position players on the entire slate. And yeah, I do prefer Willem. To Josh's point, though, you're looking like 20 and 30% ownership for the two of them.
They should be popular. They're really good.
And Sotex, thanks for the shout outs. And let's get to 100 likes, if anything, for a completely wrong weather forecast. Yeah, the more times you guys like the show, the more likely our weather predictions are to be accurate. That is just how science works.
They can't be any worse.
Anything else you want to talk about as far as stacks go, Josh? If not, we will do some home run picks and eat some dinner.
Let's do some home run picks. Let's eat some dinner.
All right. So I kind of did tip my hand that I have one home run bet for tonight. And I ran really hot early. I hit a Willie Castro homer at plus 750. I had, what was the other one that I bet? I posted it to Twitter. I had Willie Castro at plus 750 and Joey Meneses at plus 680. So running good with the home run props today. For the night, the one home run prop I bet was William Contreras on FanDuel plus 630 to homer. I'll do a DFS home run pick as well. Josh, who are you picking to go yard tonight?
That's a great question. Let's find out.
I am going to go with, let's see, who is a good chance to homer that would really benefit my DFS lineups? Dodger. It probably would have been Vlad if he wasn't scratched from the lineup, to be honest. I think he would have been my home run pick.
Yeah. Give me Dalton Varsho.
Okay. Dalton Varsho. So going with the Blue Jay up against Michael King. I'm going to go with Max Muncy. Going against Reese Olson. Dodgers, a team that we have been a little bit under-owned today. Team that I like is my favorite stack on the slate. So I'm going to be picking Max Muncy as my DFS home run pick. Betting purposes, I've got William Contreras plus 630 to homer. Guys, thank you very much for watching. And we got some people in the chat as well. Aaron Hines said Matt Muncy homer. We've got the Viking Nomad. He's going with Mookie Betts for over 1.5 Ks. That's not a home run pick. Homer, we got Horner from Alucard, Max Muncy from Peter Wysocki, and then yeah. So guys, thank you very much for watching. If you have not done it yet, do us a big favor, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. I hope you guys have a great night. We'll be back here tomorrow to break down baseball and of course football as well. Sign up Red Zone for the NFL lineup generator. Go check that out, guys. See you back here tomorrow.